Time, we say, is always moving. We can't see it, but we know it's there. It ticks by us from past to future. We know it flows, moves. If we can imagine something moving, we can imagine it speeding up, slowing down, stopping. Or can we? These cars have stopped moving, but how long for? Many philosophers agree time could never stop, speed up, or slow down. When we think of time moving, we really think of people, cars, objects moving. And if time doesn't flow, it doesn't exist. It's one of philosophy's greatest conundrums. But how much does it matter? In a time when life is less I think, more iPod, money is tight, life is stressful, are philosophical questions like this of real importance? As an ex-student and lover of philosophy myself, I want to find out, what is philosophy's future? One person keen to promote philosophy is Professor Angie Hobbs. After 10 years at the University of Warwick, she's packing up to move to Sheffield Uni. She recently took on a role that makes her the UK's philosophy ambassador, in charge of keeping us thinking about those big questions. Do you think that some people have misconceptions about philosophy that can perhaps damage its public image?
Some people are rather nervous that it might be useless. What's it got to do with my life? It's just something that a few academics indulge in their ivory towers. It can't help me live my life. What's the point of it?
So since university fees have risen to £9,000 a year, applications to read philosophy have dropped by 7.9%. What's your reaction to that statistic?
But of course it's worrying. Philosophy is really important for our national life, for quality of life, both individually and communally. So the drop in applications means that more than ever, all academics have to get out there, talk on the media, talk to politicians, and get the argument across that this subject really, really matters.
I think I agree with Angie that philosophy is important, but is it important enough to spend £9,000 a year to study it? I paid a meagre £3,000 a year to study philosophy, but I still worried about where it would lead. The first batch of students paying the higher tuition fees start university in September this year. The rise saw applications to study philosophy drop by nearly 8%, while science and technologies, which are more vocational, only lost around 2.5% of applications. With it harder than ever for graduates to find work, is it any wonder philosophy has taken a hit? I've come to visit two Sheffield University students to see how they and people they know view philosophy. Do you think that when you applied to go to university, the fees were £9,000, that would have affected your decision to study philosophy?
It could have done, just because of how much you're investing into your uni experience. Then you might think more about what you're getting out afterwards. When I started, 3,000 was still a lot, whereas now it seems like more you've got to decide how it's going to pay off afterwards as well if you're left in that much debt.
When you tell people that you do philosophy, what kind of reactions do you get?
You get people who are just like, so what are you going to do with that?
Yeah, like you're doing like a DOS subject. You're just coming to uni to come to uni, and you're like, oh, so what can I do? I'll do philosophy, and it's not like that at all.
People just really look down at it, especially if they're doing something they consider really vocational. They're going to get a job that's really directly in line with what they've been studying. People just think it's useless, like you've just got your head in the clouds.
One reason I've found that people don't trust philosophy is that they think it's not scientific enough. How can you make a decision based on a theory someone's just thought up? Horizon at the BBC have been making science documentaries for 48 years. They've covered everything from supermassive black holes to microbiology. I'm meeting the person who makes the programmes to ask her whether philosophy's important.
Well, I think science kind of grew out of philosophy. So it's looking at answering the same questions. Why are we here? How do things work? And a lot of the early scientists obviously didn't think of themselves as scientists. They were philosophers. And so therefore, there's a connection there in the birth of science to philosophy that you can't get away from.
So philosophy's vital for lots of the things we know. But are ordinary people really interested?
Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for coming.
Turns out they are.
This is a crowdsourced debate.
Welcome to the London Philosophy Club. A place where amateur philosophers can quench that need for a good debate. Guest speakers come each time to outline a philosophical or ethical dilemma. Then members split off into groups to decide what they think. The club has over 2,000 members in London, but about 150 similar groups have sprung up all over the UK, and the trend is spreading.
That's an absurd argument, really.
In this room there are about 50 people. Bear in mind most of them don't have a philosophy degree. There's doctors, nurses, students, lawyers who've all paid £3 to come and have a drink and a really good conversation. So maybe then there is a thirst to answer those big questions. Next morning, I meet with one of the club's organisers. He's even written a book on how philosophy can be of practical help. But he didn't come across these ideas in a lecture theatre. They're lessons learned from a very difficult period in his life.
While I was at university, I got various emotional problems, things like panic attacks and mood swings, and I was really frightened through that time because I didn't really know what was going on with me or whether it was permanent. After university, I came across cognitive behavioural therapy, and that helped me a lot to understand my emotions and how I can change them. And then as a journalist, I started to research CBT, and I interviewed the people who'd invented it and found that they'd been directly inspired by ancient Greek philosophy. Those ideas took me from a place where I was suffering a lot and very unhappy and had a very bleak view of the world, to a place where I'm much happier and doing much better and able to fulfill my potential more.
Why do you think that philosophy clubs are so popular?
Perhaps there are these two different types of philosophy at the moment. There's academic philosophy and what I call street philosophy, which is more informal, outside the academy, through these kind of grassroots groups. It seems like more and more people are getting interested in philosophy or seeing the value in philosophy.
I'm back at Warwick with Professor Angie Hobbs. She also thinks more and more people are waking up to the contribution philosophy can make.
In the last year, for instance, I've done a lot of work on the ethics of money and banking. I've done work on the England riots, how philosophers like Plato and his moral psychology can help us understand the motivations there. So there are a number of debates which are currently of huge importance to us, where philosophy really can help.
And as for the future of the subject?
I think philosophy's future is really bright at the moment, hugely exciting. People all over the world are waking up to the contribution that philosophy can make. It's a wonderful journey that philosophy is going on at the moment, and I'm thrilled that it's happening.
So, whether it happens in books, in universities, in pubs, it's happening and people are using it. This subject is changing its form and gaining momentum. We certainly can't call time on philosophy just yet.